Hey, welcome back to the Elevate Church online experience. We love having you here every week, and if this is your first time, a special welcome to you. If you haven't done it yet and you'd like to today, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can catch up on all our videos. So our worship partner this week is Klein from the USA. If you'd like to sing along, the words will be on the screen.
You stood before the ages, you stand the test of time, the King of new creation, restoring hearts like mine. You are the way, you are the light, Jesus, begotten of the Father, eternal Word made flesh. You walked among the sinners and conquered sin and death, crushed and pierced to give us life. Who was and is to come, the holy and the worthy one, who came and called my name and set me free. You broke the chains of slavery and gave this captive victory. The fullness of your life is now in me, all for your glory. Condemned with all the guilty, though you had done no wrong, they found your grave empty when they rolled back the stone. And now our song ascends to you and you alone, who was and is to come, the holy and the worthy one, who came and called my name and set me free. Yes, you broke the chains of slavery and gave this captive victory. The fullness of your life is now in me, all for your glory. Yes, all for your glory. Yes. We are your people. You are our God, delivered from evil. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We are your people. You are our God, high and exalted. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Who was and is to come, the holy and the worthy one, who came and called my name and set me free. Yes, you broke the chains of slavery and gave this captive victory. The fullness of your life is now in me, all for your glory. All for your glory. All for your glory. To all those struggling for just a breath, swallowed whole beneath depression's heaviness, you're doubting that this awful lake is ever calm. stuck hoping that some healing comes with time. Just loneliness and silence as the walls start closing in. You will sing again. To all those watching, dreams fade away. A world of brilliant colors slowly turns to gray. When all your joy and passions are just ashes in the wind, you will sing again. For every graveside by which you've stood, wondering to yourself how heaven says it's good, with nothing but a dry well where your worship once had been, you will sing again. Yes, you will sing again. You will sing again. You will sing of goodness. You will sing of kindness. You will sing of faithfulness that held you to the end. You will sing of healing, of hope and restoration, and how the tender mercy of the Savior's met you. Every place you've been, you'll sing of goodness. You will sing of kindness. You will sing of faithfulness that held you to the end. You will sing of healing, of hope and restoration, and how the tender mercy of the Savior's met you. Every place you've been, I don't know how, and I can't tell you when. No, I don't know how, and I can't tell you when, but you will sing again. You will sing again. With nothing but a dry well where your worship once had been, you will sing again.
This is the second week of our message, The Way. If you didn't get to watch the first one, I'd suggest you go back and watch it.
Well, hey there, Elevate friends and family. Great to have you with us today. Now, here in Australia, there is an organization called NCLS, National Church Leadership Surveys, or National Church Life Surveys, sorry. And they regularly survey the average Australian around questions to do with spirituality and religion and church and so on and so forth. I just want to show you a few results of some surveys they took in 2021, so just a couple of years ago. So here's the first one. They asked a group in this particular survey the question, do you believe in God or a higher power? And 55% actually said yes, 24% said no, and then 21% unsure. It's very interesting. Over half yes, and only a quarter no. Then another question, this is kind of mind-blowing, for the record. Is Jesus an actual historical figure? So they're not asking, is Jesus the Son of God? They're just asking, like, do you believe, or actually they're speaking to the people that ran this survey. They were actually asking the question, are you aware that in history, and it's not up for conjecture, it's a proven fact, that there was a person named Jesus, born in Nazareth, etc., and 50% said no, which this is a stark reminder of just how much challenge and, of course, how much opportunity we have ahead of us as the church. So, yeah, look, we are ultimately committed to inviting people to consider whether Jesus is who he says he is, whether he is the Son of God. And we're asking that in a culture here in Australia where half of the people actually put him in the same category as the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny. Here's one. Also, how many Australians, if asked, would attend, and this is the question, would you attend a church service this Christmas if you were invited by a friend or a family member? And 3 in 10 said yes, that they would attend a Christmas service if invited by a friend or family member, and they gave their reasons for that. 34% said that the most important factor is how important it was to the friend or the relative. 16% said if the church is welcoming, and then 13% said if the church is caring. So this is just a little bit of a flyover of some of the landscape that we live in here in Australia when it comes to spirituality and the church among the average Australian, not among the average churchgoer, but among the average Australian. So we're speaking into this landscape over these couple of weeks in a mini-series we've called The Way. And we're taking a deep dive into Jesus' last recorded prayer and what was ultimately his longest recorded prayer. So if you've got your smartphone camera, scan this flow code and it's going to take you there. It's going to take you to John chapter 17. And this is John recording this prayer that Jesus prayed. Now, while you're doing that, we'll leave the flow code up there. Jesus prayed this prayer knowing that he was about to be arrested and then executed. So it kind of goes without saying that this was not the time for Jesus to be praying for a good parking spot or that his sporting team would win. This is where you got to pray the big stuff, maybe even the biggest stuff, the stuff that matters most. And so last week we looked at something Jesus prayed. We called it the way of life, asking the question, what's the ultimate point of life? Jesus declared he is the way, not a way, the way to eternal life, and calls us to know him and to make him known as the ultimate point in life. At Elevate, we simply frame that in the language to reach people and build people is the ultimate point in life. Well, Jesus continues in this prayer. Verse 20, I'm praying not only for these disciples, but also for all who will ever believe in me through their message. I pray that they will all be one, just as you and I are one, as you are in me, Father, and I am in you, and may they be in us so that the world will believe you sent me. Today I'm talking about the way of unity, and Jesus actually highlights that unity among the church will actually be one of the convincing factors to an unchurched person that God is actually at work, that Jesus actually resides in that church, that Jesus' message is ultimately worth considering and potentially believing. Kick-started, jump-started by unity. That unity actually isn't a goal in and of itself, that unity is a goal that leads to something even bigger and more potent. And so in order for this to be something that we take advantage of, there's a couple of things as a church that I want to ensure that we're doing. The first one is to dial up the mission. You know, our mission, I just said it a moment ago, is to reach people and build people. And we can never place too much emphasis on that. We can never place too much of the focus and the spotlight on that, because that's ultimately the number one thing we do. We're all about reaching people and building people. That's our mission. That's why we exist as a church. It's not a sideline activity. It's not an add-on activity. It's the reason. There's a museum in the Nantucket Islands off the east coast of the US. It's called the Nantucket Shipwreck and Life-Saving Museum. Here's a picture of it from the outside. And this museum is dedicated to a group of people that were called the Life-Saving Society. The Life-Saving Society was created in response to the fact that on the fringe of in the waters around the Nantucket Islands, it's very, very rocky, and ships would regularly hit those rocks and start to sink. And of course, the people on those ships, their lives would be in danger. And this life-saving society constructed huts all along the coastline of the Nantucket Islands. They called them huts of refuge. And essentially, the members of the life-saving society, who were volunteers, by the way, and I'll come back to that, they would man those huts of refuge and look out towards the water. And if a ship was to go down, that ship would send up a flare, and the volunteers would know that they needed to leave the hut and venture out into the water and look to try and rescue as many people as possible. Now, the Life Saving Society had a motto, and they put this up in the recruitment process. Not after you've signed up. They made this very clear before you joined them as a volunteer. And the motto is this: you have to go out, you don't have to come back. And people signed up. And they signed up because they recognized that human life is infinitely valuable. These volunteers repeatedly risked their own lives and saved lots of lives in the process. Now, over time, the US launched what we now call the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard eventually kind of took over the role of patrolling the waters around Nantucket Island, so the Life-Saving Society was no longer required to be going about saving people. What's interesting to me, though, is that the Life-Saving Society still exists. They never disbanded. In fact, they still meet regularly to this day for things like dinners and banquets. But they just don't save lives anymore. And I'm not sharing this story to dunk on them, but I'm sharing it because this is a cautionary tale. Because this can so easily happen to the church. You know, we used to be about saving people, about taking risks, about abandoning our own comfort. We used to go above and beyond so other people would encounter Jesus. But, you know, over time we just stopped looking out and we started looking in. Focusing on our comfort, our needs, and our preferences. And even though people all around us are dying every single day to a Jesus-less eternity, that's no longer important to us. And one of the usual suspects over the years that people have gotten hung up when it comes to personal preferences and prioritizing personal preferences. And I don't mean at Elevate, I mean just like universally across churches, is music. This is just an example of how easy it can be to allow personal preferences to become the priority. You know, oh, the music, there's not enough classics. I mean, come on, give us some How Great Thou Art. That brings back memories of when we used to reach people. Oh, it's too loud. That's a classic. Well, here at Elevate, we intentionally select worship music that appeals from a style standpoint to a 30-year-old male. Now, this is going to shock you to learn that I no longer fit in that demographic of a 30-year-old male. But here's my deal. As long as people are getting an opportunity to hear about Jesus, and as long as Elevate Church is reaching the next generations, I'm in. As long as people are getting baptized, I'm in. As long as people's marriages are getting restored, people are getting healed, breakthroughs are happening, I'm in. Here in Perth, I'll park myself in the quieter sections. When I'm online, I'll turn the volume down if I need to, which, by the way, I don't. But look, there may come a time, and at that time, I'll wear earplugs, or there'll come a time where I'll just turn my hearing aid off until the preaching begins. My focus is not on my preferences. My focus is on our mission. That's the priority, and it has to be that way and remain that way. Jesus continued his prayer, I've given them the glory you gave me so that they may be one as we are one. I'm in them and you're in me, and may they experience such perfect unity. And here it is again. That's not the goal. It's the trigger that leads to the bigger goal, that the world will know that you sent me and that you love them as much as you love me. So the first thing we need to be about is to dial up the mission. And the second thing that we need to couple that with is to dial down the drama. You're like, whoa, what happened? Nothing's happened. But I'm preaching this to ensure it stays that way. Because have you ever met somebody who loves drama? Yeah, you have. Their name's right in your brain right now. You know that studies have determined that it's actually a thing to be addicted to drama? You'd be like, oh, that person, man, they're so addicted to drama. Do you know it's actually a thing? And this is how it works, that it can start quite innocently. Somebody's been exposed to some level of trauma in their life that causes some pain, that our body responds to that by producing endorphins and ultimately masking or mitigating some of that pain. The problem is that some people get addicted to that experience. And if they haven't treated the root of the trauma that they've experienced in their lives, then whenever that pain starts to come to the surface, they'll feel, whether they're aware of it or not, a need for more of these endorphins, and so they'll start to cause some new, fresh drama. We can't be those people. We need to dial up the mission and dial down the drama. And when we do this, we fight alongside each other and we fight for each other, not with each other. Here's a bonkers story that I'm going to just tell you right up front. You can't make this stuff up. In the Holy Land, which it's not a good time to be visiting there right now, but sadly, but in the Holy Land, there's a church called the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Now, sepulchre essentially means grave, and it was founded and established in about the 4th century. And traditional thought is that it is built on the site where Jesus was buried. Okay. It's considered the most holy site in all of Christianity globally. Now, despite it being a Christian holy site, the epicenter, it's actually 2 Muslim families that have the keys. One Muslim family opens the gate to the church in the morning, and another Muslim family closes and locks it up at night. And they do this and they lock it up because inside the church there's a number of denominations who have priests living in there who just can't seem to get along. They can't seem to agree on how things should be run inside that church. There's the Roman Catholics represented, Greek Orthodox, American Apostolic, Coptic, Syriac, Ethiopian Orthodox. All of them have some priests in there. Now, check this out. Some time ago, one of the priests from one of those denominations decided he was going to sunbathe in a disputed area. Well, the other priests didn't like that, so they attacked him with iron bars. Things escalated, and ultimately 11 priests had to be hospitalized because they all went UFC on each other. And it wasn't about the sunbathing, it was just that act of seeming disregard triggered centuries of contention and aggravation. Another time, one priest from one denomination asked a priest from another denomination to lock a particular door. Well, that turned into a brawl that got so intense that the Israeli police had to be called in. But then all the priests decided, no, we're going to rally together on this. They unified and they started attacking the Israeli police. The group of priests turned on the cops. And this is in the most holy site in all of Christianity. But in reality, I don't think we should be all that surprised, because personal agendas and personal preferences have historically and can so easily derail relationships and the big picture mission in a heartbeat. And you've experienced it. Some of you have experienced it in your family. Some of you have experienced it in your workplace. Some of you have seen it happen in a political party that are meant to sort of be together around. And then some of you maybe have that experience in a church you used to be a part of. We've got to dial up the mission and dial down the drama. People, Christians, churches, they have just over 1,000+ years continued to find ways to dial up the drama, to disagree and divide on things like politics, dress code, whether Christians should watch a particular movie or not, whether you should read from a particular English translation of the Bible or not, whether you should have guitars in worship or not. And these sorts of things have led to churches splintering and splintering and splintering. Not multiplying, not launching new churches, no, splintering, dividing, splintering, dividing. Here's a little fun game you can play at home. What number do you think is the number of denominations currently around the world of Christianity? Is it 500? Is it 5,000? Is it 50,000? Well, look, okay, I got to say it does depend on how you define a denomination, but the numbers run anything from around 1,100 up to over 30,000 denominations around the world. Do you know when Jesus launched the church, there was only one, the church, the people of the way, and yet now 2,000 years later, we've got 1,000 to over 30,000, depending on how you count. A lot more than Jesus had in mind when there was one. So here's a couple of pro tips just to land this today. Dial up the mission, dial down the drama. First thing, keep the main things the main things. What are the main things? Here's the main things. Jesus is the Son of God. He abandoned heaven. He came to earth as a human. He died on a cross for the forgiveness of the sins, and he makes the invitation to anyone who wants to put their faith in him that if they were to do so, they will be forgiven and be given the gift of eternal life. That's the main thing. Everything else is tier 2, and some of the stuff that churches have gotten their knickers in a twist over is tier 3, tier 4, and tier 5 stuff. The stuff that's more about preferences than about priorities, the main things. Another one, when there's drama circulating, believe the best until proven otherwise. In the legal process, when somebody's accused of something, before the trial, there's a phase called the discovery phase. And that's where the investigation happens, to try to get to the essence of what actually happened. And then, okay, we can go on trial. But don't skip the discovery phase. Ask questions. Someone comes to you, or someone's trying to dial up the drama, or gossip, or slander, or did you hear... Let me look into that. Let me ask some questions. Before I judge them guilty, which, by the way, they might not be, I'm going to go into the discovery phase. By the way, we live in a culture now where people will just skip the discovery phase and the trial and presume guilty, not innocent. Another way we can dial down the drama is to watch your words. Now, I regularly talk about this, the importance of speaking life to people and speaking life about people. There's another piece to this, watching your words. Did you know that poorly chosen words, not talking about intentions, just about poorly chosen words, can actually light fuses that you didn't intend to light? Careless words, maybe you haven't even learnt how to communicate better. Can I strongly recommend become a student of effective interpersonal communication? Look to and listen to high capacity people, how they frame their words, how they use questions. It will ensure, because if you don't want to dial up the drama but you have very poor interpersonal communication skills, I'm going to tell you, you will dial up the drama even though you don't mean to. So watch your words. And then this one is the last one, set boundaries. Like if you come to me with gossip, I'm probably just going to say, shut it down. Or if you're like, no, I think this is important. Well, I learned from a mentor of mine years ago, this very simple response is, if you come to me with drama and you're insisting that it's vital that I consider it, then while you're standing there, I'll call the person that you've brought the accusation against. I'll call them. Put them on speakerphone. Hi. Let me tell you from my experience, that shuts things down right there, because all I'm trying to establish at that time is a broader perspective, because one person's only brought me their perspective, and it's very rarely the whole playing field. And sometimes not true at all. It's like, how about instead of you trying to drag me into the mud, how about I help you get out of the mud? Because life's actually better outside of the mud. Dial up the mission, dial down the drama to better cultivate unity, that the world will believe that God's actually at work in the church and that Jesus' message is actually something worth considering. And unfortunately, this is not what the church is known for. Drama-less. In fact, it's known in increasing pockets of the population as being drama-filled. Here's another question that the National Church Life Survey asked in 2021. A group of Australians asked the question, is religion, and it kind of meant like Christian church, good for society? Well, great, 44% agreed. Well, no, it's not great at all. It's less than half. 38% were neutral, but get this, 98% disagree that religion, that the church is good for society. They actually are inferring that we would be better off as a society if the church ceased to exist. Well, I wonder where they got that framework from. Now, I'm not dunking on the church. I love the church. I'm hope-filled for the church. I've committed my life to lead the church that God's entrusted me to lead as best as I can. Here's something that I am encouraged by, and this is another thing that comes back to the church survey. 3 in 10 people surveyed would say yes to an invitation to a church at Christmas. 3 in 10. 3 in 10. 16%, I quoted this right at the top, said one of the appealing factors would be if the church is welcoming. 13% said if the church is caring. You know what didn't come up as a response is that if the church was drama-filled. Now, there might be 1%, the people that are addicted to drama would be like, ooh, I can go in there and have the time of my life. But 99% of the average Australians, and I'm pretty much willing to guess that this statistic would be somewhat universal, they are not looking to get in the orbit of a church that's just going to add more drama to their lives. Here's something that King David wrote. I'm finished with this. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity, for there the Lord bestows his blessing, even life evermore. People, let's dial up the mission and dial down the drama. See you next week.
If you've been able to give before, we thank you so much. And if you'd like to today, you can find the links on our screen. Catch you later.